HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Having It All, a podcast that explores the question, can we really have it all in life? My name is Matthew Bivens, and I believe that having it all means viewing life through a lens of abundance and love. You see, it's not about having anything, but instead about how we experience ourselves, other people, and life itself. In this podcast, my guests and I explore what having it all and creating your ideal life actually look like. We talk about the joy and contentment when you feel like you have it all, however it is that you define it. And we also talk about the profound and sometimes uncomfortable situations that you frequently must go through in order to create that ideal life. My goal with this podcast is that you walk away from each episode with new lessons that you can apply to your life, as well as real, raw stories of what having it all can look like. I want to spark the flame in your mind that asks, what does it look like to have it all in my life? So, with that, join me in having it all. Has success in one area of your life come at the extreme cost of another? If watching your career take off meant you also watched your health take a nosedive, then Shawn Manaher can relate. In this conversation, Shawn and I talk about work-life imbalance and what he learned about himself and his priorities after growing multiple successful online businesses, only to find that his health was severely suffering. Shawn's story is definitely one that I know a lot of people out there can relate to. He's been through it when it comes to his health and his body. And so this conversation will definitely have some tips and insights and perspective that people in Shawn's shoes can absolutely walk away with and apply to their lives. So with that, let's jump right into this conversation with Shawn. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an entrepreneur whose story is as relatable as it is inspiring. He is a man passionate about the idea of freedom. In his business, Sidepreneurs, he helps entrepreneurs who are working to graduate into full-time entrepreneurship create their own version of freedom in their lives. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Shawn Manaher. Shawn, how are you being today?
I am living the dream, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you for hopping on the show with me and having a conversation. Now, I like to ask the question, how are you being, instead of how are you doing? Because I think that too often we get caught up in the doing of things. You know, I got to do this, I got to do that. And we rarely reflect on who we are being and becoming in the process. So that's why I ask.
Absolutely. Love the question. And I think being is something that individuals, you're right, they don't reflect on it. One of the most responsive things that I have going on my social media presence is on my personal Twitter account, which I list out. My tagline is becoming a better human. And I get so many comments, Matthew, on that because it just kind of trips people up. When you see a profile on Twitter, you think it's going to be business-like and they're focused on stuff. And I'm all about business on Twitter. But I list that because that is important to me. Being the person that we're aimed to be, becoming to be is really important.
That's awesome. And I did see that and I noticed it. I was like, normally you'll see people plug their business and their books and all those different things. But you had a message that was slightly different, and I thought that was awesome. So, Shawn, you have a very, very compelling story, and not just from an entrepreneurial standpoint. We know you've grown and launched all these successful businesses, but your story is also compelling from just a personal health standpoint, and that's what I think people will find really, really inspiring. So, will you briefly share your story with us?
Yeah, Matthew. For me, my entrepreneur journey started about 6.5 years ago, and it really started to build quickly. I started to try and make money online. This whole passive income thing was really kicking it about 6.5 years ago. I was figuring out how to make some money. And that then started to take off. And I was making about $300, $500, $1,500 a month on a passive income side, which really isn't passive income. But that being aside, is I started to get really busy. My wife, she was working full-time going to school. I was working full-time and starting a side business. That side business soon turned into a full-time business. So I'm working full-time during the day, working full-time in the evening. And it came to this point where my health started to seriously deteriorate. I would wake up, it started probably in October, I started to really feel it about 3 years ago. And I was not feeling well. I was getting pains on my side, pains in the middle of my stomach. I was getting numbness in my hands, my feet, my head.
Wow.
And for about 3 months, I dealt with that. And I didn't tell my wife, didn't tell anybody, figure I'm going to tough it out. But in January, it started to get really serious.
HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
Why don't more infant formula companies use organic, grass-fed whole milk instead of skim? Why don't more infant formula companies use the latest breast milk science? Why don't more infant formula companies run their own clinical trials? Why don't more infant formula companies use more of the proteins found in breast milk? Why don't more infant formula companies have their own factories instead of outsourcing their manufacturing? We wondered the same thing. So we made ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.
And I decided at that moment that I really needed to just check out, see what's happening. So I scheduled a doctor's appointment after talking with my wife. The doctor had me go under and do an endoscopy kind of thing, trying to find out what's wrong in my stomach. And what they found out was nothing. Was just nothing wrong with me. But what they said is, it seems like you're under a lot of stress. And I realized at that moment that I had a decision to make, that I can continue to try and pursue the full-time, or I could get healthy. And I made the decision to get healthy. And at that moment, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go out on my own as an entrepreneur and put aside working for somebody else.
Wow, and that's where I think that the listeners to this will just be blown away and inspired by that choice, because many times we are faced with that choice of continuing in the career and pursuing the things at the expense of our health. And it sounds like you faced that crossroads, and eventually you made that powerful choice to work on your health.
Yeah, absolutely. And that decision was the start of it, I would say, because shortly thereafter, left that company about 4 or 5 months after that point in January, and then 5 months later, left that job. And then I started down this path of getting healthy physically, as well as I'd say other areas, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It really was a catalyst to start to look at, what am I doing? Like, when I look at it, and I remember the conversation about my health with my wife, and she said to me, I want you to live a bit longer.
Mm.
I want you to be around longer. And when your significant other, whoever it is, says that to you, it's a wake up call to say, they're seeing something in my life that I'm probably not seeing. And as much as I'm trying to pursue all of these things, I'm obviously going down a path that is destructive. And in that moment, I said, you know what? I am going to start to get healthy. And so for me, it started with the decision to reduce the stress. It also started on this path of getting healthy physically. So about 2 years ago, so this is 1 year into being free and working on my own,
Okay.
really started to get healthy physically by eating right. And within the last 2 years, I dropped 50 pounds from where I was at. And I'm a
Wow.
small frame guy. I was like 220 in a 5'8" frame. And, that just doesn't add up. And so that whole process, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, likely talking to you, Matthew, if I didn't make a decision 3 years ago to get healthy. And that's like, I know that people may be listening in, they're like, oh, that sounds all crazy. And the reality is, it is. But because of the decisions that I made, that one decision to decide I'm no longer going to go work for somebody else. And it wasn't a, I had the decision, but I felt like I had to make the decision, because it's either I'm going to work for somebody else, or I'm going to work for myself. And I said, I'm going to work for me. And in that decision, there's so many other things that were impacted and changed. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like it's like knocking over that first domino, and you really can't predict what's going to happen after you make that one significant decision. And like I can imagine that you didn't think you would be here where you are today a couple years ago when you made that big decision.
Not at all.
Yeah. So I want to go back actually to that conversation you had with your wife, where she said that she wanted you to be around longer, because I think that's obviously a very significant turning point. And for you, you were a guy who had you were doing full time, so you had created the quote unquote success that a lot of us are chasing. That's the job, the career, the money, the ability to sort of buy and have those things that you wanted. However, your life, yourself, your health was suffering. So what was that like? What was it like feeling like on one hand you had success as we tend to define it in a social sense, but on the other half, you knew that there was something missing. What was that like for you?
The best way I can define it is in spiritual terms. As religious individuals, and a lot of times those that are Christian, they might say that there was a void in their life. That is, there is a gap between what they know their life should be and could be, and what their life is. And for religious folks, they talk about faith in God and Jesus Christ as being that thing that fills them. And the reality is that I was a hollow shell of reality of what was really happening. Yes, I had financial success. Yes, I had social success in that I would talk to friends, I would talk to family, and I was always and still am, like in a lot of ways, that guy that was like always having something going on. But at the same time, my health was suffering. My relationships around me were suffering. And I just was not feeling like I was fulfilled. And that really was very impactful, just to think of it even now, just to look back and say, I didn't have as much joy. I didn't have as much uh, that sense of contentment as I do now. Even though I'm likely doing, quote, more stuff. I've developed systems and processes so that I can handle a bit more. And I have now a team around me because I'm just over time getting better at this whole idea of building a business.
Wow. Wow. I took a couple notes and I want to go back on three of the things that you said. You had the financial success, you had the social success, and all of that is great. But you realized that there was three big things you were missing, and that was health, that was healthy relationships, and that was fulfillment. And I think that there are absolutely listeners right now who are perhaps nodding their head because either they have that financial social success or they're on their way towards achieving it, but the path that they're on right now, it will be at the expense of their health, their relationships, and their ultimate fulfillment. So I wanted to go back and just highlight those things that you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're all on this journey. I think those that listen in, they might think, oh man, I'm not there yet. But the reality is that there is a step in a process that everybody goes through. Me getting healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually, in a number of different ways has been a journey. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to caution people to not compare themselves with other people. Like even for myself, you're listening to me, but compare yourself against yourself and
Mm.
just look at, okay, how can I move myself one step closer to where I believe I need to be? And just be intentional about that process, that over time you will become healthier. As an example, when me and my wife got healthy physically, we had already started to decide that we're going to eat organic foods and reduce as many chemicals in our diet. And so, what that did is about 4 years ago, I stopped drinking soda. And then I started to drink a lot of water. And then from there, we decided, okay, we're going to reduce the number of conventional meats, that is, meats that are non organic or non grass fed. And this process was a process. And over time, we made decisions step by step. It wasn't all overnight. There were points in time where we're like, okay, we need to make a decision that we're just going to do this, and this is how we are going to do it because we want to. But we've had little by little successes that have built up to this point where I feel so like, from a health standpoint, like I feel like I'm at that 8, 9 all the time.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a great point. You said that it is a day-to-day journey. You know, you had this end point, this end goal. Maybe it was a weight loss goal or overall health goal, but you get there by choosing healthily and choosing powerfully, moment to moment, day to day. So it's not like you just made one change and then all of a sudden you were there. Nothing happens instantaneously. And in fact, that's a great lesson for not just your health, but businesses as well. I mean, it's about those small changes, those little things that you're doing that add up. So awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that part of your story. I think that was just a powerful way to kick off this conversation.
You're welcome.
So in the context of this show, having it all, all is an acronym. So all means having an abundant, loving life. And so, Shawn, I am curious, what does that mean to you?
All right. So, Matthew, when I think of the acronym Abundant Loving Life, I think of the movie back in the 90s, Dead Poet Society, that featured Robin Williams. And the importance of that movie for me as a teenager, I really came around this idea of carpe diem, seize the day. That is, whatever life has in front of you, just take a hold of it and embrace it and just own it, whatever that might be, whether it's good or bad, because we get plenty of bad stuff that happens in our life. And I'm not trying to be woohoo and people are thinking, wow, this guy's like, he's really out there, but I guess I am. I'm just going to own it. But this idea of abundant, loving life, it truly is about seizing the day, seizing the relationships, and seizing the opportunities that we are given and do the most with it. Don't sit on the sidelines. Don't be a spectator of life. Enjoy it and live it. And don't wait for permission from other people to do the things that you're meant to do. We talked about some religious things. Calling, this sense of purpose that I have to do this can be something that we hold ourselves back from because we're looking for other people to give permission. Don't wait for the permission, go for it. And that to me is what abundant, loving life means.
Well, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I love how you mentioned waiting on other people to give you permission to live the life that you feel called to live. Because that's, if you just think about that statement, it doesn't make any sense, you know? Yeah. Wow. Well, this segues nicely into my next question because you talked about that calling, that bigger purpose. And so what is your big why in life? What is your big purpose that you feel called to do right now?
I feel called to make sure that I'm always taking care of my family. It's just my wife and I. And that doesn't sound sexy, but the reality is that it impacts everything that I do. It impacts the people that I associate with because ultimately it's a reflection on me and my family. And that takes care of my wife because she knows that I'm hanging out with the right people. I think of my wife in the work that I do because it's providing for us, and we're working through the process of hopefully adopting soon. And so we'll have some kids and all that as well. And so that's important. And I think of my wife in the actions that I do every day. Every morning that we wake up, we have a routine. She comes down, we make breakfast together. We have a half an hour that we can spend together. In the evening, we have some time that we can spend together. In all of that, my why is her. That's what I do and why I do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I bet she will love hearing that, especially as we get closer and closer to Valentine's Day. So that's a beautiful thing.
And I'm not, I know people like, I hate you, Shawn. Because any wife that is listening to this or a girlfriend or a significant other that says, hey, listen to this guy. Why don't you do this? This again is a process. This is a learning, failing, continuing to grow from what you do. And then that whole idea of living that why out is very practical, and it has to be very strategic. And so for me, truly living out that why means doing the little things consistently so that it makes an impact for the long term.
Yeah, and I heard you say a couple things that, people, if they do approach or they do hear this conversation, they think, oh, he's just saying that because, he wants his wife to put a smile on her face. Well, there's a couple of things in there that you said, and one thing that I heard was that you want how other people experience you. You want their experience of you to be powerful, inspiring, loving, and so that inspires you to then be that type of person. Absolutely. And I also heard you talk about just simple, I don't want to call them habits, but you said doing the small things for other people. And especially when it comes to your significant other, I mean, that's huge. It does come down to those small things, which I'm learning. I'm in my second year of marriage, so I'm learning that. And
hey, congrats, man.
Thank you. And it made me think of the book, The 5 Love Languages. Are you familiar with that book?
Gary Chapman, yep.
Yeah. So, understanding your partner's love language and then being able to love them the way that they want to be loved. And that's just a powerful lesson for, people who are in a marriage or in a significant relationship, or even just people who want to be able to have more fulfilling, rich relationships with people in their lives, like their parents or their siblings.
Absolutely.
I have found that learning the 5 love languages, understanding what the love language is of the other person who I want to, be loving on, has just been a really powerful practice for me. And that's what I got out of what you were saying.
Absolutely. And with that said, for those that are business owners, if you don't think like that your relationships matter, then you're not going to succeed in business, because the reality is that everything's about relationship.
Yes.
And how you treat your significant other and your family and those closest to you cannot be different than how you treat people in business. It's no longer a separation. It's all the same.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it gets found out because we live in this big world called social media. So if you treat people poorly, either way, it's going to be found out. And so you just need to live right and live to the purpose that you're called to.
Oh, I love that you said that. I have this saying that I picked up from my mentor. It is, anything is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So how you show up in one area of your life, how you treat one person, that's you. That's part of you, and it's going to show up in those other areas. And I love how you said that you can't compartmentalize this stuff. You can't treat your spouse one way and then turn around and expect to be able to treat your customers a different way, in a genuine way, because I think it boils down to your character, and your character, you're going to express that just goes all over the place, however it shows up. So yeah, that's awesome. And I have this whole list of questions I'm staring at on my screen, but I love conversations where they just go off in different directions.
Yeah.
It's kind of analogous to when you made that big leap in your life and you jumped and you didn't know where you were going to go, but you just were going along for the ride. I love conversations that kind of follow that same track.
Awesome.
But all right, I'll hop back into these questions then. I want to talk about habits a little bit. I am a big fan of being intentional on creating healthy and powerful habits. And one of my favorite quotes comes from Stephen Covey, who's the man when it comes to habits. And the quote is, "Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny." So Shawn, what are some of the habits of health and really just loving on yourself that you practice regularly?
So there are a couple of things that I do. I'll hone in on one or two. Well, there are a number of things that I do in terms of the habit area, but I'll just focus in on just a couple. Number one, for me, I have a routine in the morning. I wake up at 5:00, get myself together, get downstairs around 5:30ish, and then just kind of get the day started with some devotions and prayer and Bible reading. And that allows me to get centered for the day and really focus on the right things for me and for what I'm trying to do and the purposes that I'm looking to fulfill. And that then impacts the next area, that each morning I journal about the future of my day, what's going to be happening, what I'm looking to accomplish. And recently, I know that you had John Lee Dumas on your show, and he may have referred to his new journal that he created, the Freedom Journal.
Yes, and we talked about it.
Yeah, and I've been using that. I got the journal on January 4th and have been journaling consistently, utilizing that. And that has truly been able to not only help me in business, but personally being able to reflect upon what am I doing in the coming day? What do I want to accomplish? And then the reflective questions of like, what are those crazy thoughts that come into your mind that you just need to put down on paper because you need to get it out? Those two habits, both the Bible study, devotion, and prayer, and then doing journaling, have really been two habits that have helped me to build on that internal side of things. Because oftentimes we're measured by what we do externally. But for me, I know that if I don't take care of those internal things, those external things won't happen. And if they do happen, they're not going to happen to the level or the way in which I'm looking them to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like both of those habits. Those are two things that I've been cultivating as well. And it's so funny when I talk to people about habits and healthy habits, even if you just go on Google and search, you will see the two habits you talked about time and time again. You will see, devotions and meditation and reflection. You will see journaling. You will see goal setting. You will see all of those things. And so it's no coincidence that those are a couple things that you've picked up and added to your life and that you've seen a great impact from them.
And a plug for my friend John Lee Dumas. If you guys are looking for the Freedom Journal, great journal, you can go to thefreedomjournal.com and pick up a copy of that journal. And it's really, I recommend it highly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that plug. And I will put a link to the Freedom Journal in the show notes.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
So let's switch topics a little bit. Let's switch gears. I want to talk about fear. Now, you're someone who has interviewed and heard the stories of just tons of entrepreneurs and different people.
Yeah.
And I know that fear has come up. So for you, what's the biggest fear that you have faced along your journey to where you are today?
That's such a good question. My biggest fear relates to, in as much as I don't care about what people think, my biggest fear is that I would come across as somebody not being authentic. That other people's perception of me, that they would look at me and somehow think that I wasn't being an authentic person and not delivering to what I have said that I'm going to deliver. And so that to me is my biggest fear. It's something that it doesn't keep me up at night because very little keeps me up at night. I go to sleep, and when I go to sleep, I put my head in the pillow and I don't wake up till I wake up. So I enjoy that. But if I think of what really is a fear for me, that would be it.
And I can understand that fear of not living to your fully authentic, fully expressed self. So that's definitely something that I think people can relate to, and it is something that if it goes unaddressed, that'll just hang out with you for your whole life.
Yep.
And you'll be on the deathbed talking about those things that you wish you had done just to fully express yourself and fully be your most authentic self. So the fact that that's a fear that you're willing to acknowledge is just powerful right now, because it means that it's going to be on your mind, and those moments when you don't feel like you're being authentic, it'll just hit you, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to choose differently. So that's cool. That's cool. So we're coming to a close here, but before we do, I know that you want to talk a little bit about one of your businesses, one of the things that you've been working on. So would you like to share with us about book marketing tools?
Yeah, absolutely, Matthew. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share that. One of the things that I've learned as I've interviewed others is, and this is a lesson in while I'm sharing this about book marketing tools, is that I've learned that you need to focus in order to see success. And that focus has led me to really focus on this business called Book Marketing Tools, where we help authors learn how to sell more books. And the focus of that business is just what I said, in that we're trying to give those individuals who are looking to self-publish an opportunity to become bestsellers. So we do it through social media, book promotions, and book syndication. And for those that are looking to learn how to sell more books, to learn how to market themselves, learn how to do all that, they can check us out at bookmarketingtools.com, and they can look at a number of resources that are there. The last thing I would leave you with is this. We recently have launched a new tool that helps authors to build a targeted group of people on Twitter. And if somebody is looking to build that audience, whether they're an author or an entrepreneur, you can check out bookmarketingtools.com/Twitter. And we'll find a resource page that will show you what we do in order to build a massive following on Twitter and then convert those individuals into email subscribers. So, Matthew, thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And for people who want to learn more about you and the things that you're up to, where can they go and check that stuff out? Where can they find you?
Let's send them to Twitter. I'm the only Shawn Manaher in the entire world. So ShawnManaher. I'm sure there'll be a link in the blog post that this is on, but you can check me out at Twitter at Shawn Manaher.
Very cool. And there will be a link in there. And Shawn, last question for you. What are you most excited about in 2016?
So, Matthew, one of the things that I've been doing this year is really ordering my world in 2-week sprints. That is, instead of looking at things that, oh man, I want to accomplish this big goal in 2016, I'm looking at what can I accomplish in the next 2 weeks, because our brains are conditioned and they actually kind of turn themselves off beyond 90 days. And so I'm looking at what's the next 2 weeks. Yes, I have big goals that I want to speak at a number of different live presentations on social media platforms or entrepreneur platforms or author platforms. But I really, in the next couple of weeks, I have a number of initiatives that are all about launching. I talked about that Twitter service that we have. So I'm excited about that for right now. And yeah, there's some bigger goals that I want to accomplish. But for right now, that 2-week goal in doing a bunch of webinars about that the Twitter service is what I'm most excited about right now.
Very cool. That is awesome. That is awesome. So, Shawn, thank you very, very much for just coming on the show and talking with me. I really, really loved our conversation. I think we had some powerful stuff in there. So, thank you.
Thanks so much, Matthew.
2 quick things before you leave. First, did you know that the Having It All podcast is a part of the Fireside Network? Yep, that's right. We are one of the shows that calls Fireside Network home. That means if you ever want to listen to a show outside of iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, all you have to do is visit www.firesidenetwork.com/having it all. From there, you can access all of the episodes, see the show notes, learn about my guests, and more. Second, we also have a standalone website for Having It All, where you can learn about me, discover how we further our mission at Having It All, and pick up some free content around creating your ideal life and just experiencing life more powerfully. You can find that at www.havingitall.co. Again, that's www.havingitall.co. Thanks again for listening to the show. Here's to you having it all.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.